welcome to the first video in our series of user guides. This video will overview how to navigate and utilize the primary features of the Power BI Sentinel Portal. And we start this video here on the home page. This is where you first land when you log into the service. And from here, you can see elements like our navigation menu on the left-hand side. This is where you can navigate between all of the main pages of the Sentinel Portal. And we also provide you some quick access items for the main features that your users might do on the portal, such as configuring your Power BI Sentinel account, scheduling your backups, viewing source lineage, or retrieving your backups. Beneath this, you can see the link to download the Power BI template reports. And then underneath that, we have an activity log where you can view the activity of Power BI Sentinel and any backup failures occurring. And finally, at the bottom of the page, you have your backup schedule summary, which shows you your enabled reports and workspaces and your disabled reports as well. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we show you a details readout of your license, your email, and if you are a Power BI admin and a Sentinel admin. The next page that you may access on the Sentinel portal is the Tenant Setup page. That's where you will go to first configure your Power BI Sentinel tenant. You can access this via the navigation menu or via one of the quick links here, Configure my Power BI Sentinel account. The first two tabs here are to configure your Azure storage account and your Azure database, SQL database. You can enter in your connection strings into these boxes here, and once these are enabled, we export your data and your backups back to your tenant. The next tab here is to configure your service principal, and we have a full video guide here on how to set up a service principal, and underneath is where you enter in your information. The next tab is for your admin emails. You can configure as many administrative emails as you like, and these emails will receive system notifications and invoice emails. And then the final tab in this list is for further and advanced options. These are for things like backup time zone offset, documentation options, configuring ABF backups, and enabling any public preview features we may have. If we return to the home screen, the next item that you may want to configure is your backups. And again, you can do this via the nav menu on the left-hand side or via the quick link here, Schedule Power BI Backups. This will take you through to the Backup Schedule Configuration screen. The first menu item here is the Global Backup Schedule Configuration section. Here you can configure global schedules for your entire tenant, and the first option is to set a default schedule for any new workspaces created on your tenant. So at the moment, any new workspaces we will create are excluded from our standard schedule. However, I could select documentation and daily backup here, and now any new workspaces we create will automatically be adopted into the Power BI Sentinel backups process with documentation and on a daily schedule. We can also overwrite all of our existing schedules we have configured, or if we have none configured, this will populate all of our schedules with the next button, and this will overwrite all schedules with this option. The next option is taking over the running of the backups. For a backup to succeed, your user account must have at least contributor access to each report or that workspace. If your user account doesn't and you want to configure another user to take over the running of these reports, this button will allow someone to take over every report using a Power BI admin or Power BI service account. And then the final button in this list is to remove all of your schedules. This big red button here will give you a clean slate so you can reconfigure all of your backups. Next is the more granular aspect. So here you can see a list of all of your workspaces, and within each of these, all of the reports across your entire tenant. And you can schedule these on individual backup schedules. So because we have a lot of workspaces, we allow you here to search for specific. So let's search for this workspace here. There we go, and we can expand a workspace. You can see this is a premium workspace as indicated by this diamond, and we can expand the capacity info on this as well. And we can set a workspace level schedule here, which each report will adopt if created after you set this schedule. And then underneath, we can see a list of all of the reports that sit within this workspace, and here you can enable or disable individual reports and set different schedules on those as well. If you have a lot of workspaces and you want to filter to just certain capacities, at the top of the screen here, you can click Show Premium Workspaces Only, which will filter all of your workspaces to show only premiums. And if you have multiple capacities, you can filter to those as well. Once we've configured all of our backups, we may then want to go and retrieve some. And the next page here is Report Backups here on the left-hand side. This screen allows you to download any backups that have been taken, and we pull them directly from the Azure Storage account configured on your tenant. So again, I can search for a workspace, and I can search for a report. Here we go. Once we've selected the report, at the bottom of the screen here, this view will load a list of every backup that has been taken of that report and allow you to download the PBIX file directly to your desktop. From this list, we can then select a report, and I can click download, and this will download the latest PBIX file to my desktop. We return to the home screen. There may be scenarios where you have scheduled a backup for daily or weekly backups. When you come to download this, they are unavailable, and you get an error message saying a failed backup. If you want to diagnose this and see a full list of all of your failing backups, and the error messages for you to fix those, you can view our risk assessment report here on the left-hand side. We have also provided you with a quick link, View Failed and Successful Backups. This will take you directly to the risk assessment report on the 14-day history. And from here, you can see a readout. We have 92 reports with successful backups, and 38 reports are failing for a reason. In the table below, you can have a full expanded view of all of the backups in green and red that are failing and succeeding, or we could filter to just show failing backups. And when we're here, we can scroll down and we can see a full 14-day history from the right to the left of our backups. A green tick indicates a successful backup and a red cross will indicate a failure. The error message for this report is report not found or user does not have permission. This is the Microsoft generated error message, and this would indicate that either the report has been deleted or the user that configured that backup no longer has access to run that backup on that report. So we would suggest in this instance that you check the report still exists, and if it does, you configure the backup to be ran with another user's account that has at least contributor access to that report. As well as providing full backups functionality, Power BI Sentinel can provide you with change tracking as well. When we take the PBIX backup of your files, we also take a JSON file, and we use this to do change comparisons between each version. Same view as before, you can search for your workspaces, and I will search for this one here and our demo report. And on this view, you will notice each version does not follow on from the next. Sometimes you may have gaps. This is because there were no changes detected between these two versions. In a scenario where you need to look at a change between one version to another, you can select on the right-hand side here. Let's go to the bottom. There we go. So let's select the earliest successful backup here, and then one slightly further up the list. And you can now do a change comparison between these two versions. You can also download the PBIX file directly from this view using the download button. But I've selected these two reports. I can scroll back up to the top and click this magic button here, Compare. This will now compare those two JSON files and show me a list of every change between those two reports. So we can see we have a visual height and width change, we have a visual level filter change, and we have a measure change on here as well. Should you wish to see the details behind these changes, you can also click this button here, which will expand the meta query. You can scroll down and you can expand individual sections. Here we can find our measure change, and you can see the DAX calculation that sits behind those changes as well. Next up, we can look at column search. Now this is a premium workspace only feature, as indicated by the diamond on the left-hand side here. Column search allows you to search your entire tenant for source columns, measures, and expressions that are being used and show you information about those. So I can search for the measure we saw just, which was called total sales, and we can do a free text search, which will then bring back any mention of total sales as a column name, the type, the table name, the report, the data set, and importantly, the DAX calculation that is used to calculate each of those. The next element here is documentation. Documentation is another premium feature and will require at least a premium per user workspace for this function to work. Documentation will provide you with a full granular readout of all of the elements used to create a report on your tenant. So again, I can search for a specific report to generate documentation for. And now at the bottom, this document will populate all of the source tables that feed this report. I can select one of our tables here, the primary fact table. This will show you all cardinality and the relationships between the tables in the data model. If we scroll down further, you can see information on the dataset, whether sensitivity labels have been applied, whether the dataset is paginated, or you have row-level security. We show you the source connection information. Below that, we show you measures readout of all of the measures created within that dataset, the name, the measure name, and the expression. We show you all calculated columns, again with the measure name, table name, and expression. And beneath that, we have a full readout of all of the relationships, the cardinality, and any comments you may want to add to these. Followed by the M code generated for that dataset, and here a list of columns within that dataset as well. One extra feature we provide is this one here, show unused columns. If you enable this, we give you a full readout in blue of all of the columns that are used, and in red, all of the columns that are unused. The next feature that I'm going to show you here is the data source lineage view. We provide this data to you both on the portal and in the data model that we export to your Azure SQL database. The view of this data on the portal is much more visual. It provides you with a view of all of your data source types and how they feed through your Power BI reports and datasets. So here I'm going to select my SQL data sources and I'm going to search for our production server. Now at the bottom of the screen, this view will load the spider diagram from our main database and show you all of the connections from dataset through to report. You can filter to specific tables as well if we wanted to. We have our main SQL source table, all of the datasets in red that feed from that source, all of the reports that feed from those datasets. We have paginated reports in blue, and we have apps here in dark blue as well. You can see detailed information on each of these datasets and reports by right-clicking. You can view workspace permissions, you can view dataset permissions, and you can view the refresh schedule of each of these datasets and semantic models. If you wish to manage the users on your Power BI Sentinel portal, you can use the User Administration button here to access the full user list. This will allow you to invite users to use Power BI Sentinel. You can delete those users, or you can escalate their privileges to be an administrator as well. And this is where you will do all user management going forward. To manage your Sentinel account, you can also use the subscription tab here. This, if you're using a credit card subscription, is where you can update your credit card details. You can see your subscription information, but if there are any items here that you cannot see or anything that's incorrect, you can contact us directly to solve these. To contact us, you can use this button here to open up an email outlook, which will send an email directly to help@powerbisentinel.com, and one of the team will be in touch to help you with your query. And that concludes this user guide on how to use the Power BI Sentinel portal. Stay tuned for upcoming user guides on how to use the other elements of Power BI Sentinel. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to contact us at help@powerbisentinel.com, and one of the team will be happy to help you with your request.